All right, so I got an absolutely wild story here for you guys because there's new reporting that has been coming out sort of dripping over the last week or so about a newly elected Republican congressman named George Santos, who it appears like is probably the single most prolific liar that I have ever seen in my entire life, okay? And you're going to see what I mean when we get through some of the details in this Business Insider article because, listen, we all understand that pretty much every politician is a rampant and repeated liar, okay? They do it all the time, but this guy was like, no, I'm going to take this to a completely different level, and I am going to literally lie about every single aspect of my life. Okay, so here from Business Insider. They say incoming GOP Congressman George Santos reportedly lied about his employment, his education, losing 4 employees in the Pulse nightclub shooting. Okay, can't imagine how you could possibly get more fucked up than that. Let's see if he can pull it off. But he also lied about his residence and his religious background. Okay, so let's get into some of the details here. I'm just going to read through basically this entire article because it will not disappoint. This man, again, has lied about everything. Okay, so they start off here. They say George Santos made history when he unexpectedly became the first non-incumbent out gay Republican to be elected to Congress in a red wave that swept New York State in the November midterm elections. And according to several media reports, he may have a historically large amount of questions to answer about his resume. Okay, so we're going to start off here with this first one about his employment history, but an important key note here that they make is that this guy was running in New York. And as I talked about after the midterms in my analysis, New York was basically could have determined single-handedly who won the House of Representatives. Obviously, Republicans ended up winning, but that was because they had pretty much a gigantic performance disproportionately in New York. And keep in mind, the head of the DCCC, Sean Patrick Maloney, who also lost in these midterm elections in a district that he should have easily won in, this guy who was in charge of a lot of the funding mechanisms for the Democratic Party was in the same state as this man, and somehow nobody, not opposition research, not the campaign managers, not the candidates themselves, not Sean Patrick Maloney, who's in the same fucking state as this guy, none of them managed to figure out and expose any of these things during the campaign. Okay, so he just completely got away with it and ended up winning in this swing district that Democrats easily could have won. So I mean, all of this is really just to say, this was a perfect case study example in terms of how incompetent a lot of these people within the Democratic Party can be. But they start off here, okay? So again, his description of his employment doesn't add up. Okay, so what are they talking about here? They say his biography says that he has worked at Goldman Sachs. Not really sure why you would want to add that to your biography. I mean, I guess maybe that's appealing to Republicans, but that would immediately turn me off from a candidate. But he said that he worked at Goldman Sachs, but a spokeswoman, Abby Collins, told the Times that there is no record of his employment at the company. Again, apparently nobody fact-checked this behind the scenes. He's also said that he was an associate asset manager at Citigroup, but spokeswoman Danielle Romero Apsilos told the Times it also couldn't confirm that he ever worked there, and said that the company sold off its asset management operations in 2005, which is 5 years before he claims to have graduated college. Okay, so again, it's like you would have had to do just like the minimal amounts of effort on opposition research to find this shit out. The timeline doesn't even add up, let alone the individual claims, which they could have followed up on, with these different companies. But they say the Times also found no IRS record of a charity that he says that he owns, Friends of Pets United, and the beneficiary of a 2017 fundraiser by the group told the Times that they'd never received any of the money that was raised. Okay, so apparently this guy is like also participating in fraud to some extent, right? Okay, so they say second, he's reportedly faced numerous evictions, claimed to be a landlord himself, and may not live at his current address. They say he was evicted in 2015 from a residence in Whitestone, Queens, after owing $2,200 in unpaid rent, per the Times, and the landlord, Maria Talumba, told the paper that he was a nice guy and a respectful tenant. Okay, that's not, bad. I wouldn't ever fault somebody for being evicted, definitely not, but they say he was evicted in 2017 as well from a residence in Sunnyside, Queens, after owing more than $10,000 in unpaid rent, and Santos received a $12,000 fine for that, apparently. They say he claimed to be a landlord in 2021, but did not list any properties in New York on financial disclosure forms, either in 2020 or in his 2022 campaigns. Okay, so you're getting evicted, but you're somehow also a landlord with all of these massive properties, but there's no verification of that, no financial records of that. Okay, so they say The Times tried to interview him on Sunday at an address where he's registered to vote, but a person there said they weren't familiar with him. Okay, so probably also just lied about where he lives, which is kind of like, why? Why are you doing all of this? I mean, is this guy just like a complete narcissist, a sociopathic liar? Like, I've never seen something like this. Again, you have politicians, like Joe Biden, and he'll run a campaign and he'll say, oh, I'm going to go and fight for the public option or whatever. And like, okay, we've seen that that's a lie. He hasn't even mentioned the public option a single time since he's been in office. Okay, that's one type of lie. But then there's another type of lie where it's like, this would basically be the equivalent to where if you went back to the 2020 Democratic primaries or the 2020 general election against Trump, and you had Biden going out there and saying, I was actually the first man to land on the moon, and I was then a firefighter during 9/11, and then after that I single-handedly killed Osama bin Laden with my bare hands, and then I went on to be a WWE superstar. It's like, that's the level of absurdity and lies that we're actually talking about here. Okay, so they say his landlord, Nancy Pothos, told CBS that he moved out in August of 2022. Okay, so third, his higher education history appears to be fabricated as well. All right, so they say he's said that he graduated with a degree in economics and finance from Baruch College, a public four-year college in New York City, in 2010. But representatives from the school told the Times that they had no record of his enrollment, despite searching multiple variations of his name. And a biography on the National Republican Campaign Committee website said that he went to New York University as well, but a spokesperson for the university again told the Times that they had no attendance records that matched his name and birth date. Okay, so they say fourth, there's still a mystery as to where his money is coming from. He's reported a $750,000 salary and a $1 million from a now, or $1 million from a now dissolved entity called Devolder Organization. A lot of shady shit going on here. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy's actually legitimately like violated multiple financial laws, but they say the firm has been described in numerous ways, including as his family's firm that manages $80 million in assets and as a capital introduction consulting company, and he did not list any clients. They say he was also apparently the regional director of Harbor City Capital, a Florida-based company, when it was accused of running a more than $17 million Ponzi scheme. Okay, so he is actually just out here committing financial crimes, but he says that he has publicly denied knowledge of the scheme, according to the New York Times. You kind of obliterated your credibility at this point. Not sure why anybody would just trust you at face value that you didn't know about this Ponzi scheme. I mean, it seems like it's right up your alley, but they continue. Fifth, he claimed to have lost 4 employees in the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting. Okay, so this is probably the most fucked up one in this list. I mean, maybe he'll be outdone here in a second, but I mean, this is just a whole different level of depravity here. They say he made the claim during an interview after his election, but the Times review found that none of the 49 victims of the Orlando shooting appeared to be associated with any of his firms. I mean, again, it's like, this is one of those lies where it's like, how does this even benefit you? Why would you say this? Why did you think that this was never going to get exposed? You just like have that level of delusion and confidence? I mean, like, what is going on here? They say sixth, a report from the Forward on Wednesday raised doubts about his religious background. Okay, so adding on to the employment history, the education history, the where you're living, do we even know that his actual name is correct at this point? All of these things stacking up, but on top of that, apparently lying about his religious background. I mean, again, why? They say Santos' biography says that his grandparents, quote, fled Jewish persecution in Ukraine, settled in Belgium, and again fled persecution during World War II. But genealogy websites reviewed by the outlet found that his grandparents were born in Brazil prior to the Nazis' ascent to power in Germany, and a report from a Brazilian newspaper said that his great-grandfather immigrated to Brazil from Belgium in 1884. Okay, so just making up like Holocaust, family history, just completely making it up and inventing that and then telling people about it. God damn, man. I mean, this guy's on a whole different plane. They say, additionally, neither of his maternal grandparents appear in the databases of Yad Vashem or the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, which maintains lists of European Jewish refugees. And Matt Brooks, the executive director of the Republican Jewish Coalition, told Jewish Insider in a statement that Santos, quote, owes the public an explanation, and that the allegations, if true, are deeply troubling. I mean, yeah, no shit, to say the least. But they continue here. I think this is the last one. 7th, okay, we're on lie number 7 here. And really, it's more than that because there's multiple lies within lies above this. But 7th, the Daily Beast reported that he was previously married to a woman. Okay, so keep in mind, this is a guy who ran as an openly gay Republican. He's, said previously, like, oh, I've always been openly gay. I've always been proud of being a gay man. But apparently, not only was he married to a woman, but he was married to a woman literally like 2 weeks before he announced his campaign run, okay, and they got divorced. All right, so I mean, listen, maybe he's gay, maybe he's not gay. At this point, can you trust anything that this guy has said at all? I mean, obviously there's multiple different scenarios that could be playing out here. Maybe he actually is gay and he just got himself into a marriage with a woman. That's not super uncommon. That happens all of the time. That's completely fine. No judgment there. But it's the fact that you're like lying about this shit. It's the fact that you didn't disclose this. You haven't talked about that, and you've been lying and portraying yourself as something that you're not, right? So I mean, whether or not he's gay, it doesn't really matter. It's about the fact that he's, again, concealing all of these things that are part of his actual life history, including like very recent history, just a couple of years ago, right before he launched his campaign, and he's just coming out and lying about everything, every single aspect of his resume. Okay, so I mean, this guy is on a completely different level. I don't even know what the fuck to say about this. Again, every politician to some extent or to some degree lies on a very frequent basis. I could count on my hand the amount of them that I don't think actually lie on a near daily basis. But, this guy, again, it's not even just lies where it's like, oh, I'm going to support this policy and then you don't really support it, or like, just general lies about things, or misconstruing things, or misrepresenting things, or, using rhetoric to manipulate people. This is just like, you lied about the most basic aspects of your own personal story, your own life. And then not only that, but like ran on that and made a lot of these things key portions of your campaign. Okay, so I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he issued a statement here, right? So on Twitter, and of course he got his lawyer to issue the statement, and they didn't, as they point out here, they didn't even contradict any of the allegations or the claims that had been made against him. And he basically put this through his lawyer, because if it does come out that there's more evidence backing up the fact that he's lied about everything under the sun, then at least he can say, okay, well, this lawyer who works for me, I'm going to throw him under the bus, and he'll take the blame for lying and about the follow-up to that. But at this point, I mean, honestly, this is what he tweeted out just earlier today, I guess. He says, to the people of New York City, I have my story to tell, and it will be told next week. I want to assure everyone that I will address your questions. I mean, there's going to be a lot of questions, man, and that I remain committed to deliver the results that I campaigned on. And he goes on. Okay, so apparently he's going to be answering to this. But listen, again, at the end of the day, man, I mean, how do you bounce back from this, number one? Number two, how do you even let this guy take his seat in Congress? I mean, I don't know how you could possibly get out of this situation and have his constituents back him, knowing that he lied about everything. I mean, he ran his entire campaign on a wildly false premise where every single detail about his life, about his story, about, his experiences was just completely fabricated out of thin air. He just pulled all of this shit out of his ass, like quite metaphorically or quite literally, depending on how you want to look at it. So, I mean, this guy obviously, I think, should be removed from office. And I don't know, maybe you do some sort of a recall vote and then you hold a new election, but there's absolutely no way that somebody who has lied about this many things in this ridiculous and upfront and brazen of a way should be able to remain in office.
Everyone is saying good Politic guy has the best politics. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying